And welcome back to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch. Today we are discussing King's Harvest Module B11 from 1989. This one was created by Carl Sargent, who is better known for his Greyhawk modules, including I Use the Evil, City of Skulls, but his masterpiece is considered The Night Below, the Underdark box set. King's Festival is a bit of a misleading title because there's actually very little about the festival that involved in the module. This is a straight-up dungeon crawl, and it is very much an introductory module, and it is actually one of the best introductory modules because it's not just introductory for the players, but this is to help a first-time dungeon master get through it. There's a large section at the beginning explaining to the dungeon master, don't panic if things go sideways. That's the point of the game. A lot of modules that are supposed to introduce players to the game don't really do a lot for the dungeon master, unfortunately, a lot of the times. So it will go easy on the players, but if it's a first-time dungeon master, they might be overwhelmed with what they're experiencing and not like the game because the players are just running roughshod and they don't know how to handle it. This module has an entire chapter devoted just to explaining to the dungeon master, if the players go off the rails, this is how you get the story moving again. And on several occasions, it will give you multiple options for the different encounters in case the players want to try one tactic over another. And having read a lot of introductory modules, I can say that quite a few of them just throw the dungeon master into the deep end and say sink or swim, but make sure the players have fun. This one kind of holds the DM's hand as it takes him through the module. So not only do they know what's happening, they also understand why it's happening, and they can adjust on the fly if the players get creative. Because let's admit it, as much as we love Keep on the Borderlands with all of its caves of chaos and all the monsters within and all the things you can do with the keep, a dungeon master looking at that map for the very first time and reading through all of the different monsters is going to get overloaded. The intro of the module and the start of the adventure is pretty simple. You ride into town, you're going to get ready for the King Hala Festival, which is an ancient king of Traladara. You have a good time, you settle down, you go to sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night with people screaming because the orcs have attacked and kidnapped a priest. And guess who they asked to go and rescue him? From then on out, it's a straightforward dungeon crawl, facing just lots and lots of orcs with some other monsters thrown in for variety. Some of the stuff you're going to have to fudge because the odds of it happening according to how the script's supposed to work out is pretty low, just because, for example, there's a kobold that if it gets hit once, it will surrender. The problem is it's a kobold. It's got minimum hit points. If you hit it, it's going to be a bloody smear if you hit it with something larger than a dagger. So give him an extra few hit points so that he's not a bloody smear and he can properly surrender. The orcs are numerous, but they're not overwhelming. If they're played correctly, the players are going to have to play very smart because they will investigate loud noises, they will go on patrol, they will investigate why certain ones are missing. But they're also backstabbing brutes, so you can play that off of each other if you can figure out how to get them to attack each other by mistake or on purpose, because some of them have higher aspirations, and for example, one lieutenant won't go help another lieutenant because he thinks he can take out the party after the first one dies and then take over the first one's place. Because of the number of orcs, the game can be a little bit overwhelming for small parties, so there's a lot of NPCs that will be sent along with it to balance out the module, though it is recommended that you play with at least 6 players for this one. Another part that the dungeon master might have to fudge is there's a secret door that you have to find it because it's mandatory to the plot. The game can't continue unless you find it, so either fudge the roll if nobody can find it by having an NPC find it, or just make sure that one of the players is an elf or a dwarf. So you hack your way through the caverns. There's really not much in the way other than orcs for this part of the adventure. There's a bugbear and there's a kobold, like I mentioned previously. They've got some trained attack animals, but nothing too overpowering. With a little bit of luck and a lot of bit of strategy, you can make it through this one almost unscathed. So you go through the module, you kill all the orcs. There's no prisoners aside from the guy that you were sent to get in the first place, so you don't have to worry about that. And then the module has a built-in breakpoint because the cleric apparently has been roughed up and he wants to go back immediately, though he does tell you that there's even more evil at the next level, but you're not ready for it, so please go back and get him healed up and get patched up and get ready for the next one. It's the module's subtle way of saying go back, rest, rearm, and get ready because the next part of the dungeon is going to be a little tougher. So you take the cleric back to the town, you get hailed as the big heroes, at least for the first part. They let you stay at the inn for free, they feed you, they heal you. You gotta buy your own weapons and armor. I was amused that when they talked about you can now buy weapons and armor, they put armor in italics, like that's a new special thing for the party. Then again, if you get started in Dungeons & Dragons around 3rd edition or later, you have no idea what banded mail is, so looking at that beautiful masterpiece of descending bands along your waist can look just absolutely magical. So now you have refreshed all your spells, you've healed all your wounds, you've replaced anything that you've expended like arrows or bolts or sling stones, and now you head back. And this time you don't know what you're facing, so the party has no advanced knowledge of what to prepare for. All they know is they're looking for the great evil and they have to stop it, but they don't know what the great evil is. Now, as soon as they get there, it's going to be obvious that the great evil has something to do with undead, because you're going to be facing zombies and skeletons and such, and some ghouls. That's pretty tough. So make sure you bring an elf. And again, it's a kill 'em all. There's no good guys to rescue down here. You're just fighting lots and lots of various random undead and different monsters. Part 2 of the module is a lot shorter than Part 1, because you don't have to go investigate anything. You just got to go kill, stab, hack. You find the big bad guy at the end of the module, you stab him a lot, he dies, you take his treasure, and then you're ready for the next module. That's it. It's not a long module. It's got the 2 parts. Now, it's longer than Dimrock Dread, and there's a lot more stuff to do than Dimrock Dread, but that's not the beauty of the module. The beauty of the module is how well it's set up to help new players. If you're a grognard like me, and you've been hacking and slashing through dungeons for decades, this is a pretty simple, basic module. There's nothing special to it. Everything it suggests you do, and all the tips it provides for you, is old school for people who have been playing for a while. But if you have never picked up a book before and you don't know what a D8 looks like, this module is a godsend, because it explains to you everything that the older players already know. It goes into a little detail in what all your abilities are for the pre-generated characters that it suggests you take. It even gives you some graph paper so you can draw the dungeon as you come across it. I mean, that's a lost art. Nobody does mapping anymore. You put out tiles so you know exactly where you are and what you're facing at all times. This is an old school module. If you want to have a map of the dungeon, you gotta make it yourself. And that was one of the problems with 4th edition that turned the damn game into a board game. It gives you cheat sheets on weapon damage and Thaco and saving throws, and it explains what they are and how to use them. It gives the players a detailed breakdown of the combat sequence so they won't miss a step and they won't forget when it's their turn, and what they can do on their turn. It's just super useful for players who have never played a game before. It does a superior job of explaining a lot of the more esoteric rules, like why a turn is 10 minutes and why a round is 1 minute. So it helps a lot of the players get ready for a game that looks really intimidating. And let's be honest, for a lot of us who started a long time ago, you have to admit when you picked up that first book, it looked like a word salad. But then the module goes one step further and provides the same courtesy to the dungeon master by explaining to them how the monsters would work, and it also does a lot of the math for like the monsters' experience points, and gives you encounter by encounter treasure so they can keep track of what the party has received. Even better, it tells the dungeon master where the best treasures are, actually where all the treasures are, encounter by encounter, so they can keep track. I know we didn't start keeping track of this apparently in the modules until B11, but why didn't we do it sooner, and why did we stop doing that? That's actually super useful. And to show how beginner-friendly the module is, it even includes a blank character sheet that you can take down and photocopy. Because this is before the internet. This is back when we had to go down to the school library and pay a bunch of dimes to get our characters printed out. The module is also known for its really nice interior art. The outside, obviously, is Clyde Caldwell, because he is one of the preeminent D&D artists and one of the most famous, to the point of, I mean, it's Clyde Caldwell. They named a module after him. The interior art is Valerie Valasek, and if you play Dragonlance, you will recognize her art immediately, though I think this is the only Dragonlance module she ever did. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. If you want to get a copy of the module, well, prepare to clench some butt cheeks, because it goes for no less than $70, where I could find it online for an actual copy. Prices over $100 were not uncommon for a copy of this module. If you want to buy a PDF and print it out, go down to DriveThruRPG. It's on sale right now for like $4. So your options are $100 or $4. It's up to you. Converting the module to 5th edition is pretty much simple. You'll have to add in some skill checks here and there and just try to balance the orcs out. Again, the problem with Beckme era modules to 5th edition is 5th edition has less monsters but have a lot more hit points because they want you fighting for a longer time. I guess you've got to hack into those orcs rather than one swing and they're down. So balancing that is always going to be a problem. But remember, it's an entry-level module. It's for players who have never played before, so don't try to overwhelm them. Just work on it to the point where you think the module's fair for a 5th edition party and then throw that at them. So that's King's Festival. It's very obviously an introductory level module. It's not meant to challenge older players, but it is meant to not scare younger players, which is something that the game really needed, because at that point in the late 80s, the game had a reputation for just being pointlessly complex. So that'll wrap up this week. I might as well go right into B12, the Queen's Harvest, for the next week, because that's the obvious one. And then I know I always try to do something larger scale for every fifth one, but I've run out of all the old school box sets, and I'm not ready to go into the second edition box sets yet. But there was a bit of a brouhaha this week, because one of the guys from WotC completely blanked on a Mystara question and went on to what was the problem with it. Might as well go over one of the crown jewels of the entire setting, and that would be the Rules Cyclopedia, which is still one of the best-selling books on Drive-Thru RPG, and you can get it there in hardback, which is something people have been screaming for a while. But that'll be in 2 weeks. So until then, die Drizzt die.